Fans, welcome back for Working Fans Wednesday, episode 27. I am producer Joe, and I will be joined shortly by the man called Dave, and we're going to talk what belts Kenny Omega should pursue now, as well as Impact Wrestling.
Lance by Chance. The untold story of him wrestling as a Von Erich. LanceByChance.com.
Now, if you want to know where to find us, we are on Twitch at Fans Working. Our email is theworkingfanswrestlingpod@gmail.com. Our YouTube is youtube.com/c/workingfanswrestlingpod. Our website, workingfanspodcast.com. Our schedule, our comedy podcast releases every Tuesday, while our wrestling podcast releases every Thursday. We're available on Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, Pocket Cast, any major podcast provider. The important thing is to please like, rate, review, and subscribe wherever you watch us. Now that you've seen our social media, let me play the Buzz social media commercial for you quick, and then we'll get to the variety of great sponsors that we are brought to you by each week.
Get the Lambo car, house in the hills with the stars. Told you I'd raise the bar, told you that I go far. Baby, it's crystal clear. I'm not a souvenir. I'm not an accessory. I'm a necessity. So come and check me out now. I'm a necessity. So come and check me out now.
Now, if you watch us each week, you know we are brought to you by a variety of great sponsors. First up, 482 Designs. That's FOUR82designs@gmail.com. Email them over there for any of your screen printing needs. They've printed us up some beautiful shirts, some stickers. JD Sloan has been on the show at WrestleTopia on Twitter, WrestleTopia on Facebook. Some great Google Drive sales if you're a tape trader. Knockout Wrestling. You know Dave and I do the commentary for Knockout Wrestling. AJ has just recently started the Knockout Rewind podcast covering all the video and all the news from them. They are available at Renegade Wrestling on most of their social medias right now. Hopefully soon all that will change over. You saw the commercial at the top of the show, Lance by Chance, written by Vinnie Berry and Lance Vaughn. It's the story of how Kevin Vaughn became Lance Von Erich, and then Lance Vaughn, his life before wrestling, how he got into the business, and his wild life after. Now, last but not least, we are brought to you by The Buzz. That is our podcast family, our podcast home, if you will. For instance, tomorrow night at 6 p.m., we will be joining Josh DeBoard, Chuck Winchester, Yvonne DeBoard, on regularly scheduled hostilities, one of our favorite shows on the network. Now I'm going to play you a quick audio show commercial showing you some of the audio-only podcasts we offer over here. Now, before I bring in the guest of honor today, I'm going to play you a quick commercial detailing all the other live shows that we have up on here. I've already mentioned regularly scheduled hostilities. And then Dave and I will get to talking Kenny Omega and Impact Wrestling.
War. Tell them that's what we ready for. War. Tell them that's what we ready for. War. Bringing that to competitors. Till we see the confetti fall, be ready for war. Tell them that's what we ready for. War. Tell them that's what we ready for. War. Bringing that to competitors. Till we see the confetti fall, be ready for war. Tell them I'm ready, any opponent. The crown heavy and every minute is chosen. A path only fit for kings, and you don't know what this court means. What did you enlist for? If it isn't getting more rings, then you gon' have to switch your team. Trust me, it gets more mean. I'm a nightmare going up against your dreams. First step is explosive like a bomb hit. Bet if I let it fly, I cannot miss. And you ain't got a chance at the top 10 when you getting clamped all night by a locksmith. On the block, throwing lobs to my top bigs. I'm a chef, no look, what's the top dish? Tie game, through the pressure as the clock ticks. Crossover, step back, hit a shot quick.
Dave, how are you doing today?
Baby, I'm ready to go.
That was the first actual live read in a while, so that was nerve-wracking. But this is day 1 of 2 days of podcasting live. And if you listen to our podcast, you're going to know that we did an Impact review preview tomorrow. But tonight we are talking what belt should Kenny Omega pursue next, since it seems like he is doing the belt collector gimmick.
Yeah. I'd like to see him go after MLW or NWA next, honestly. I think New Japan should be towards the end, but I'd love to see him get in there. I'd like to see Hammerstone win the title from Fatu, and then I'd like to see Kenny and Hammerstone maybe go at it down the road. And then, I don't know, see all. I don't know if all these companies are going to, do what Impact did. Certainly, the end game I think should be Omega and Ospreay, or good thing he has the money. I think that I think there's definitely some money down the road of Kenny getting that New Japan World Title. So we'll see.
See, I saw it almost as him going after Randy Osgood. How's it going today, brother? Chuck Winchester of Regularly Scheduled Hostilities, where you'll see 2 of the best promo guys in the business tomorrow night. But I thought, I got off track now that I saw Randy. I got to include the comments. We're live, pal.
We're live. Actually, I had a problem hearing you for a second, too, so I had to unplug my mic there and all that. So I'm like, oh, okay.
Oh, wow. Randy coming with the deep cuts. Tom Lawler in the PFL fight.
Yep. He's going to be in the Pro Fighters League. And he's got his work cut out for him. He hasn't fought in a few years, but if he wins, he's got to win a couple fights. But if he wins this tournament, he could have $1 million.
Now, Randy, thanks for getting me back on track, because recently Tom Lawler won that belt on New Japan Strong. And I thought that or the U.S. belt would be an interesting first step for Kenny. And then now that you bring up NWA, I see NWA as the most likely of the two between NWA and MLW. But MLW would be another wild company to see Kenny Omega get in, now that MLW got that Vice deal.
Right. Oh, man, you imagine all these companies just working together, being on Vice, Access, TNT, and just finding these different wrestling matches.
Personally, I'm glad we're seeing this level of cooperation, because AEW was brought up on last night's NWA Power. It's been brought up on Impact now. And this is something we've been hyping for a while, that we've wanted to see this cooperation between companies. And it's been something that WWE doesn't do at all.
Not in many, many years. The last time WWE did anything cooperation I can think of was, not counting the European stuff, because there's a little bit that would have been ECW, and that was back when they were struggling with WCW and Monday Nitro, and
ECW. They even had that old New Japan SWS affiliation, as well.
Yeah, so there's stuff throughout history, but it's they don't like to play with others. I mean, it's just known fact. So.
As far as we know right now, it's just going to be older programming that's going to go up on Vice. I would like to hope maybe some of those shows that they ran last year during the pandemic, the anthology shows, could go up there, and even see Fusion up there. But I mean, if it's just underground for right now, I am cool with that. That kicks off Saturday, as a matter of fact.
Oh, it's going to be on Saturday? Okay, cool. Wow, nice.
Yeah, they really hotshotted that. It's like they announced it, and then all of a sudden, boom, they're going to be up on Saturday.
You know what? If we're going to have like old classic shows on there, though, and they'll have, if they do good ratings, maybe eventually this will be to catapult to put new stuff on there, or even maybe kind of like an old Clash of the Champions thing. We'll have like quarterly big events or something on there.
That would be cool to see. It's good to see that Vice is investing more in wrestling. Obviously, Dark Side of the Ring has hit it big for them. Damian Abraham had that series, The Wrestlers, on there, which was also very good. And for wrestling nerds like us, it was an interesting deep dive into different factions of wrestling.
I love when they went to Haiti. That's a great episode. Check that out. Voodoo and pro wrestling, folks. That's some crazy shit.
What do you see Omega going for any other belts, or is that probably going to be the scope of it? He's eventually going to make
maybe Mexico,
and
maybe. I would say though,
he's got that AAA Mega Championship.
We didn't mention
going to CMLL.
You know what we didn't mention? Ring of Honor.
Do you see Ring of Honor getting involved in this? It seems like the last time that Ring of Honor kind of commingled with AEW, they got left in the dust and they almost had to rebuild over a tough year.
They just separated with CMLL. They're parting ways. A little statement came out yesterday, which is interesting because Roosh is still the champion as far as I know. So we'll see how that plays out. But, I mean, there you go. I mean, let's say they have to get the belt off Roosh. I mean, here's a storyline for you. Kenny Omega swoops right in there and just takes the title. I mean, I'm not saying they'll work together, but there's certainly a storyline for it.
Yeah, definitely. Now, we've covered the belts Kenny Omega should go for, and I think that kind of brings up the broader subject of Impact Wrestling, and it's interesting to see where they are at the moment because over the years, Impact has had this thing where they've existed no matter what, but there's times where they're bigger and then it seems like something happens and they can't shake the stink of TNA over the years. Anytime there's some kind of minor mishap or they just don't seem to live up to the hype, everybody always goes, that's Impact Wrestling. That's just TNA. What do you think this pay-per-view and more importantly, this double title win did for them to kind of show out?
It's trying to show that you're an alternative at the end of the day. That's been the issue with Impact over the years and especially when they were TNA, was they had a lot of great talent. They had Jeff Hardy, Kurt Angle, Samoa Joe, but sometimes they would just do things that they would come off like WWE light. And listen, I mean, WWE is the biggest company in the world. It's more notoriety than anybody. So Eric Bischoff brought up a great point. Like when he started WCW Nitro, it was like I could be better than, worse than, or different than. Well, I don't know if I can be better than. I don't want to be worse than. So let's be different. And I think that's what TNA now Impact should be concentrating on. And I think they are. They're doing this cooperation, and I hope other companies start doing it. I want to say this though. Last year they capitalized with their Bound for Glory pay-per-view with the images of all the wrestlers that were released, and they kind of built yeah. Oh, was it Slammiversary?
I believe it was Slammiversary.
Okay, all right. Well, this is what is this in July? Is that Slammiversary or Bound for Glory?
Slammiversary.
Okay, so yeah, it's Slammiversary then, right? Because it's the same one. So now we've built up, this it's happened again this year, and I don't know if I want to do this every year, but I think this is interesting because wouldn't it be something if Samoa Joe showed up and challenged Kenny Omega? Like, imagine how huge that would be for Impact Wrestling. And I mean, I think that'd be must-see television.
It's weird. Like, I've watched a lot of these guys in Impact before. Like, before they went back to WWE, Drew McIntyre, Lashley, and when they're in Impact, they're like, all right, like Lashley was the champion 5 or so years ago.
Yeah.
Wasn't as exciting. But you see him in WWE and he just presented different.
Right.
I didn't think I'd be excited about Samoa Joe before this because, you know, he's been in TNA. He's been one of those guys. I think he could come back as a straight killer and be that foil for Kenny Omega at the end of this run. Like, I don't know. It's when some of these guys go to WWE, I don't know if it's how they're presented almost makes their value drop in my mind, or I'm like, wow, they kind of fell off. But I think coming out of it, he's going to have a lot to prove, and that one pay-per-view is going to be massive.
Yeah, it really depends on how you get presented. I will say this. It's interesting. I think we talked about this a little bit. One thing Impact does really well is that
Survive.
they do that well. But like, let's take Brian Myers, for example. He had a horrible run in WWE, right? Samoa Joe, it is what it is. He had some success, but injuries and stuff. Like, he's still a killer, and I think he presented as such an impact. Bobby Lashley, to WWE's credit, they finally got behind him and are now presenting him as a killer. So he looks really good, right? And if you're lucky enough to get that treatment from WWE, then you mean more if you eventually leave. But with Brian Myers, he didn't get that. He got shitted on all the time. But Impact, to their credit, if they think you got talent, they're going to try to do something with you. They'll give you something different.
Now, WWE almost capitalized on that Lashley character when they put him with MVP, mirroring the Beatdown Clan that was in Impact for like 5 years ago. Like, if you look at the Beatdown Clan in Impact, they had Samoa Joe, MVP, Low-Ki, Lashley. This was a group of killers. And when I first saw the Hurt Business, I'm like, oh, wow, they're almost doing something with it. And then they almost seem to kill it too quickly. I've really been into Impact the last 5 years, probably from when the Beatdown Clan was big. And then when they almost kind of mixed with Global Force Wrestling, and they were doing that featuring wrestling from around the world. They'd have a match from Mexico on their TV show,
Right.
Noah, when Eddie Edwards was defending the belt. And I have that same excitement that I had for Impact then that I have right now, because the way they're doing Myers, the Kenny Omega title run. Randy asked us earlier, I wonder what's going to happen on Impact now. And this Thursday's episode, they've almost created a must-see episode, one that I think could rival AEW and NXT numbers.
Well, I mean, they don't have unfortunately, they don't have the showcase for that. They need to get on the
Well, as close as they can come to rivaling those numbers. They'll do, I'd say a couple 100,000 at least, maybe double their numbers from before.
It'll be interesting. Yeah, I am really curious to see what they do this week. I mean, if you look at the initial, when Kenny showed up initially, right after the, that Dynamite with Don Callis and everything, those numbers, I think they did get a couple like extra 100,000 on their channel, and I think their Twitch numbers like tripled. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do this week. I'm pulling for Impact. I want them to do well. I want all these companies to do well. Let's get wrestling big again. You know.
Randy dropping a couple of the bigger things that happened on Rebellion, which Randy, listen to the podcast tomorrow. You'd be more than happy that we covered this.
We did.
Don't mind the video version. It's going to say preview, but motherfucker just woke up and we got to get the wheels on the road somehow here.
It's a review, baby. It's a review, I swear.
Now, that'll be tomorrow's podcast episode, but tonight we've got some of the best wrestling on TV, MLW. Tonight's show looks amazing. Have you seen the card?
I have not.
Oh, thank God I looked it up just before we got on.
Tell me about it, Cass.
Now, we've got PWI's Jason McVeigh as an exclusive on Azteca Underground's El Jefe. That should be interesting.
Like
Leo Rush and Myron Reed are going to take some questions from the media ahead of their title match next week. Alicia Atout is going to chat with Hammerstone.
Ask him about that Hammer Dick poster.
Yeah. And now the matches for tonight. Iho de LA Park versus Buku Dao.
Mm-hmm.
Should be
Buku Dow coming off that win over TJ Perkins. They booked him well.
Yeah. But the two matches that I think are most interesting, Ross Von Erich versus Dominic Guarini
Mm.
and Marshall Von Erich versus Filthy Tom Lawler. It is an all Von Erich's episode tonight,
Mm-hmm.
an all Team Filthy episode for that matter.
Yeah, right. The Von Erichs, baby. We got nothing but love for the Von Erichs on this podcast and this show.
Former guest of the show. Hopefully we could get him back on at some point.
I haven't tried recently. I know they have their own podcast, but yeah, maybe I'll go back to the well one more time. I love you guys. Nothing
But
love.
now that we've covered MLW, they've always got great action. But we have AEW. and-
Elite.
There are some great matches. Have you seen the card for this tonight?
Nah, baby, tell me what's up. Glad you looked it up.
I'm glad I did too. I was gonna text you to look it up, but I'm like, you know what? I'll take the initiative on this one.
If you had texted me, I would have. I'm glad you did it.
We've got the Inner Circle versus the Pinnacle. They're gonna meet up before next week's Blood and Guts. Now, what do you think about Blood and Guts being given away on TV versus pay-per-view?
I think it's smart, very smart, because now in this day and age, TV rights and ratings are bigger than ever. And we've seen now that they're unopposed what they're capable of doing. And now you're going to give them a special like this. This is going to be really interesting to see what kind of number they can pop. This could be a big game changer. So very smart on their part. Maybe we can, Randy. We tried. I think you get
I was
the
gonna
hair
say
done.
maybe we can, maybe we can't. Hopefully, it works out better than last time.
Yeah, how's that hair, girl?
I was on the opposite end of things. I thought giving away Blood and Guts on TV wasn't the greatest idea, but
Smart.
I mean, now that you bring that up, that's something.
Yeah,
we
you know
got-
that old school thought. You're thinking back in the Cornet days. Build into a pay-per-view, buddy. We gotta make that
You
money.
gotta sell some tickets to that, baby.
Yeah, I'm in my prime.
Need to watch that. Now we got Brian Cage versus Hangman Page. That could be a banger of a match.
Love it. I love it. Hangman Page all the way, baby. I want him to win. That's my boy.
El Zero Miedo versus Orange Cassidy. I really think that could be an athletic contest.
Good.
There, to
What do you
say.
think about his translator there, Alex? I think he's a slimy little heel. I want to punch him in the face. I like it.
I hate him, but that's
What
probably
he wants, right?
yeah, that's probably what he wants. I thought I hated him because he's almost like a broadcaster that's trying something different. You know, like they almost stuck him into that role. I mean, it helps.
I like the way you worded that. I thought he was hated him because he was a broadcaster and he was trying something different. And
Well,
then,
yeah,
you know,
but to
we
me, it
shit
just
on
seemed
that.
like they were shoehorning him in there. But now that we've called matches, and I'm not going to fault anybody for trying anything because, you know, you kind of do the position that you're given.
Sure.
And I think he's coming off as a great heel rather than as somebody that's just new to kind of what he's doing.
Right. Yeah, I like it. I find him kind of annoying, but I think that's the point, right? So good on him.
Yeah. Now we've also got Chris Statlander versus Penelope Ford.
Oh.
We've got the Young Bucks versus Matt and Mike Sydal. I think that could be a show stealer.
That'll be fun.
Now we've got Billy Gunn, Dustin, and I don't know who the third guy is. I think it's Lee Johnson from
Oh, yeah, it is. Actually,
Okay.
remember this. Yeah.
versus Nick Camerato, QT Marshall, and Aaron Solo.
Yes.
And that's a cool Nightmare Factory versus the Factory battle.
Anthony Ogogo is in the corner of those guys too. They're keeping him kind of separate, but they're like, you know, they're doing stuff with short with him. Like, you know, if he gets a match, it's a TKO stoppage, or you know, he does interference and stuff like that. I think that's because he's still very new to the game, but it's smart.
Now, what's your thoughts on Anthony Ogogo? Because he had been doing commentary on Dark for a while, and I liked him in the Dark role.
Yeah.
I like him in his new role, but I forget what podcast I listened to, but I think they mentioned that the gut punch as a move is an odd kind of knockout move. It would look
Right.
better if it was almost a shot to the chin.
It's
Either
interesting.
way, I like that they're bringing him in as that special attraction at the moment.
Yeah, me too. I like it overall. I think he's adds legitimacy, and as long as his heart's into it, which it appears it is, then it's cool. And as far as the knockout punch, even going back to like Big Show, I always find that to be an odd move because to me, it's an easy enough move to execute. It almost makes you think like, why aren't you going for it in the beginning of the match all the time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, Randy bringing us a little question, not Andy. He's got kids to worry about. Do you like that AEW does a live and then a tape show the next week?
Doesn't affect me at all because I don't look up spoilers and I haven't seen any spoilers. Could be an issue if they start going into large arena crowds again, but I think when they go to large arena crowds, it's going to be live every week.
Yeah.
Which
Josh
is coming up.
Wood showing up late, but Josh, we've been shouting out RSH. We told them you're bringing the two best promo guys in the game onto your show tomorrow night.
Shit. I got company? I didn't even know you. I was doing this solo. All right, my man.
Yeah, you and me are killing it. We
Mhm.
got to watch some Raw, and I mean, I've got to watch some Raw and some SmackDown. I keep
I'm
up
up to date with my SmackDown. I've been really good with SmackDown. They had a really solid show the other week, so pretty happy to watch that. So.
But yeah, I think we've got some interesting wrestling coming up tonight. We got some interesting wrestling to talk tomorrow. It's been
one other thing we didn't really discuss or talk about, but that Rowdy Piper documentary.
Randy, you're the only one, brother.
Yeah, he don't miss you. Rowdy Piper documentary.
Yeah, let's talk that Piper documentary.
That was good.
I haven't watched it yet.
Okay, so one thing really different about this one as opposed to Steve Austin was I thought it was a little grittier. And I liked the Steve Austin one, but I really like this one. Like they really concentrated on his family. They really concentrated with the old stuff, and they had a lot of. Damn right.
That's what we're saying, Josh. Get ready for me to curse you out about having to watch it tomorrow.
Curse you out. But the old,
Josh,
the old wrestling that they
for
had.
you, brother.
I'll tell you a real quick story from it that I know was on Piper's DVD, and then we'll get on out of here because Joe needs to get some sleep. But there's this thing where Roddy was in Mexico working with the Guerreros. And he talks about it in his DVD too, somewhere. But basically, he's pissed off everybody, and he comes out on TV and he says, "You know, I love the Guerreros. I love what they stand for, and I want to apologize. And you know, I'm gonna make this right." And you know, he's like, "I'm gonna play the national anthem with my bagpipes." And so they're building this. So he's gonna play the Mexican national anthem with his bagpipes, and they're building towards this week after week, and then. Finally, the big moment's on. All right, they're out there in the big stadium, and Piper's getting ready, and he says, in the moment, he's like, "I'm gonna die," and so he immediately starts playing. And they haven't wrestled a story; they confirm all this, and immediately Piper starts playing La Cucaracha, La Cucaracha. So rather than the Mexican national anthem, he plays a cockroach song, and immediately chairs come flying. Chairs that are bolted down are flying in there, and they had to shut the arena down. It was a near riot. So that's some of the stories you'll find in this documentary.
Piper was excellent at getting heat when he needed to. Now
he got stabbed multiple times. Yeah.
Yep. Now, how do you feel about these A&E biographies? Because I've seen the Stone Cold one. I might watch this one tonight at work.
Mm-hmm.
And they've got a few lined up. It's almost like they're competing with Vice, but trying to present maybe like a not dark documentary.
I think
until you get worried. I don't know how it's not dark when you talk about him.
Yeah. Even and Piper had his dark moments too. Also got a sweet side too. But yeah, I'm interested in some of the wrestlers like they got one with Booker T coming up. Like I'm excited for that. I don't think I've seen a Booker T documentary before. So to me, that's kind of cool. Much like Vice, when we get to Nick Gage, I haven't seen one of those, so I'm interested.
Yeah, because you can hear about the story, like how people talk about it, but to see it presented, one in a professional way, and then get the subject himself to talk about it, that should be interesting and fill out more of that story. It's good to see wrestling getting a bigger form platform now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess that's one thing, right? With AEW getting, another program on TNT, with Vince, getting the great TV rights deals he has over the years. And now we're seeing these companies up. And now after a pandemic where they needed content, and wrestling was able to produce TV shows still throughout it all. Right now, we're seeing shows like A&E and all this stuff come up, and it's pretty cool. It's nice to see wrestling getting out there.
Yeah, AEW is up in the rankings. Same with NXT. Dark
Mhm.
Side of the Ring does numbers. They see that wrestling can provide viewers. And while it was always kind of thought as the lowest kind of common denominator of entertainment, it's really showing some worth as a storytelling vehicle.
You got a great story, real quick. So there was this report that was done. I won't tell you who it was because that'll spoil it. But Brian Alvarez talked about in Wrestling Observer who your smartest fans are. All right, and it was NASCAR, baseball, basketball, hockey, football, and WWE. It said WWE. All right, and the smartest fans were WWE. Now, you've been to wrestling too. You're thinking, how the fuck is that? Like I was. But the site that did the IQ test was somethingbet.com, and it was based off that more people who bet on WWE predictions get it right. In particular, the Roman Reigns fans. They went that far with it. So Roman Reigns matches, more people, they're like, they keep getting these damn Roman Reigns matches right every time. They know who to bet on.
And I mean,
Yeah, I don't know. That's
I
a great.
don't know if that's really smart fans or if that's recognizing
We just know
particularly
the
where WWE storytelling is going, because sometimes they maybe telegraph it more,
They do,
whereas
and-
other you can get
other companies
lost.
to do a better job,
story,
right?
It's
Yeah.
almost hard to tell what's what at times.
But even obviously these people don't even know wrestling. Like if you're any kind of wrestling fan, like okay, we know like tonight, like if you give me a lot of the AEW show, okay, the Seidel brothers, great example. Like if that's on, if there's a bookie, there's a line for that. I'm not betting on them against the Bucks. Why? Because I watch enough wrestling that I know 9 times out of 10 what's going to happen in certain matches. Clearly, the people who did this IQ thing, they had no idea or have any idea what pro wrestling even is, probably.
Yeah, it must be either a article to hype a betting website or just a pop culture article for you to read while you're taking a shit. But Dave, let's go over the AEW card real quick and see how likely some of these wins are. Now,
Okay.
you pick the Bucks over the Seidels.
Yep.
Where are you at this Billy Gunn, Dustin Lee Johnson versus Camarado Marshall Salo match?
Well, I'm going to go with the Nightmare Factory on this. I know. I'm sorry. I'm going. Yeah. Well,
The Factory?
Marshall. The Factory. Thank you. Yeah,
Marshall's
I'm going with
gonna
the
do
heels.
it?
Yeah.
Where do you see Chris Statlander versus Penelope Ford?
In fact, I'm going to tell you what I think are easiest and what are hardest. The Factory one was a little harder than the Seidel one. The Bucks are winning for sure. Statlander is definitely winning this one.
Wow, see, I thought the Marshall one was almost definite because you kind of want to build up that new group that you're making.
I can't win the week before. That's what I'm struggling with.
Oh, I don't remember.
I don't either. Yeah, so but that's why I was going back and forth. But okay, so yeah, those are my
good point.
so far. I'm going with the Factory. I'm going with the Bucks, and I'm going with Statlander.
Penta versus Orange Cassidy.
Okay, this one's a little harder. I'm gonna go with Cassidy based off the fact that Phoenix got the win over Chuck last night, and Penta kicked Cassidy in the head. So based off of what I know in wrestling, when somebody has the momentum, usually the other person will get the win. But that's not always the case.
Now, Brian Cage versus Hangman Page.
Going with Hangman Page. I think Hangman, especially in AEW, when you're going to be that guy that challenges for a belt, they build you up with wins. I think that's going to continue to happen here.
Now, let's even apply this to MLW because
Sure.
Iho de LA Park versus Buku Dao, little harder.
A little harder. Being that Buku Dao is coming off a big win, and it's not LA Park, I'm going to say Buku Dao pulls it off.
Ross Von Erich versus Dominic Garrini.
Ain't going to be Garini. Kiss my ass. Ross Von Erich.
And Tom Lawler versus Marshall Von Erich.
So I'm going to go with Marshall here. but only because we know Filthy Tom is doing more stuff with New Japan and he's got the big fight coming up. I just think they'll want to put the momentum on the Von Erich side, is my guess. I could be wrong on that one. That one's a tougher one.
Now, when I can remember, I ask what the match of the night's going to be.
Yes.
And then, shit, I remember tonight. So let's go off the air. I will give you my match of the night. It's got to be Filthy Tom versus Marshall Von Erich. Who do you got?
I got Hangman Page and Brian Cage. I think they'll light it up.
Well, fans, you've seen another week of Working Fans Wednesday, episode 27. And if you want to catch more Working Fans bullshit, catch on RSH on the Buzz Facebook page and social media tomorrow night at 6, and we'll talk to you later.
Bye.